Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Right Side. Doug Billings here with you, ladies and gentlemen. Today on the program, we're going to take a look. The polls, Trump surging ahead in the key swing states, the battleground states. I'm going to show you specific numbers. He's up by almost 20 points in Iowa and leading in Ohio by 12. Iowa and Ohio are important because as they go, so goes Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. The manufactured fake enthusiasm from the radical left is a myth. It is not real. It is nonsense. And Trump is surging. Thanks, of course, largely due to the Robert F. Kennedy endorsement and the Tulsi Gabbard endorsements that came this week. All of this and much more. We're going to take a deep look. Lots of hope out there, ladies and gentlemen. Trump is surging. Today, The Right Side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready? Cheers.
Hey everybody, my name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right side with Doug Billings, right side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to The Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready?
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God, and His divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Right Side, Doug Billings here with you today. It is Tuesday in August on the 27th, and across the nation, throughout the Republic, President Trump surging in the polls, leading comfortably in places where it really matters. And it's only getting better from here. Listen, I know that this sounds counterintuitive to a lot of you because all you see from the radical left and in the legacy media is an absolute tidal wave that is manufactured, engineered enthusiasm. It's fake, and it's demanded by the liberal hierarchy. You've got to get out there, toe the line. Everybody, you, Krasenstein brothers on X, and all of the legacy media television news outlets, and get sissy boy Harry Sisson over here. He's got to make sure he's on board. It's all manufactured. In a week where they should have had a huge bump because of their convention, Trump is surging, largely in part, of course, and granted by, thankfully, the people that belong to the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. camp. And we welcome them. We welcome the folks that were brought over to us by Tulsi Gabbard as well. But President Trump's lead is skyrocketing, folks, and support around the nation for him is turning in a massive way towards him and what he represents for the Republic. With the endorsement of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, we confirmed that people who have been out there are becoming, for lack of a better word, they're becoming brave, becoming more confident in stepping forward and voicing their opinions, because the radical left is really good at beating people down and canceling you if you were to dare suggest an opposite opinion, or if you weren't on their side, if you were actively working against their commu-socialist, formerly known as Democrat agenda, right? So we know how it is. People would much rather not get involved because they know that the wrath of the radical liberal left is sometimes too much, more than they can bear. And I understand that. I get it. I've been the victim of the radical left cancel culture as well. So on social media platforms and trying to get this word out to you, good people. So I understand what that's all about. But because of RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard coming forward, it does give people more confidence, and it gives them more assurance and bravery to step forward and begin to talk about, you know what, I may have been a Democrat at one point, but not anymore, because when I look around this republic, this is not what I've signed up for. And so we're grateful to Bobby Kennedy Jr. and to Tulsi Gabbard for coming forward. And this is especially playing out in the polls that are reputable. For the last few weeks, I've talked about polls, and you've heard me say that the ones that the radical left are showing you are nonsense. There's not good methodology. There's response bias in there, and it's not a good sampling. And so we look at states specifically, and we're going to do this today. We're going to take a look at what's going on in some of these states and look historically at what that means for the battleground states. So, but people are brave. They're speaking up. They're coming forward. They know that Trump represents a freedom from the tyranny and the lawfare that they've seen from the radical left. And isn't it ironic? I just was reading about this before the show started tonight, and I'm going to go off script just a little bit here, but the Mark Zuckerberg case, he's admitted that he was put under pressure by Kamala Harris to suppress information from Facebook and therefore affect certain outcomes, perhaps, of the 2020 election. Zuckerberg's admitted this, and on this very day where he's come out, wouldn't you know that Jack Allen, the kangaroo court prosecutor, has filed more charges against President Trump because he didn't get his way in the Supreme Court. So much like what liberals do, when the courts rule against them, they try to figure out another way to finagle another lawfare case against someone, in this case, Trump. And so all of this nonsense that's arrayed against President Trump, I'm going to go just for a minute here and tell you this, and then I'm going to get into these poll numbers. But I want you to know, ladies and gentlemen, all of the things that President Trump is facing, every single one of them, and words are important, all of it, every case that has been brought against him and all charges that he's facing or has faced will be either thrown out or overturned, every one of them. So be confident in that and let the left lunacy kookville camp have their fun with throwing around words like felon and charges and this and that, and let Jack Allen do his thing, waste more time, and do what he's going to do. Nothing that we can do to stop him, but be confident that what he's doing will not prevail. None of it will. Evidence of the obvious is sufficient. So Trump represents this anti-communism, anti-socialism movement that has become the center point of the rebranding of the Democrat Party. You know me, I've told you there are no more Democrats, especially in the elected class in Washington, D.C. This blending of communism and socialism, Marxism, fascism, all of it. This commu-socialist party that they represent, this coalition of immorality. They have rebranded themselves away from America, away from the intent of the founding fathers. They use flags as gimmicks at their convention. They use flags as gimmicks wherever they are, because on the other hand, they'll wave a flag and claim that they're patriotic, but then they'll allow people to burn the American flag at their events. So Kennedy supporters have been asked, in two different scenarios. Who would you vote for, first of all, if Robert Kennedy Jr. would just drop out of the race? If he were just to drop out, not endorsing Trump, but just to drop out, who would you vote for? 40% of his followers in that regard, 40%, if he were just to drop out, automatically go to Trump. 40% right off the top. Okay, good. All right, not a bad number. Now, if we change that, and if we ask his supporters, who would you vote for if Kennedy not only drops out, but if he endorses President Trump? And we know that he's already endorsed Trump. This question was asked a week or so ago, but the answer bears true because it's in the news today. This is what's happening in the dynamic of the polls and in the swing and the mood of the country. So if you ask people in the Kennedy camp, if Kennedy drops out and he endorses President Trump, how many of you would vote for Trump? In that case, right off the top, 60% of the Kennedy supporters will go immediately for Trump. And when you look at what Kennedy's polling on a national basis, he's about 6%. So those are huge numbers for Trump supporters that have now been born from the Kennedy supporters. And it's especially significant when we look at the battleground states, because Kennedy's share of the votes in those states, now listen to this, this is important. When we're looking at the battleground states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, etc., Kennedy's lead is larger. I should say Kennedy's share of the points in the voting process there is larger than the Trump or Harris lead in those states. So that's significant. It'll help Trump in the battleground states, this endorsement. So the person who benefits, clearly Donald Trump. And the number of actual voters, when you look at the points and you try to convert to numbers, it's every demographic that Kennedy brings. Mostly you've got women, white and black women. You have black men. You also have a large swath of Generation Z voters that are coming our way, libertarian voters coming our way. You have Asian, Hispanic, Latino. Look, we could go, it's almost every major demographic boosting the numbers for President Trump. So it's a good thing all the way around, and lots of hope around there. So continue to be kind to the RFK Jr. voters coming over to our side as you meet them and encounter them on social media and elsewhere. Be welcoming, because look, I know how it feels when your guy drops out and you're thinking that's kind of depressing right there, but you're also in a joint effort to save the republic away from the tyranny that this commune socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, represents. And it is a real threat. It is, I mean, I am serious. This left liberal commune socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, is not a pro-America political party. You cannot underestimate that. And you can't underestimate the importance of what Kennedy has now done for Trump and his campaign. Tulsi Gabbard as well. So her numbers, obviously she wasn't a candidate this time around, but still a great number of Democrat and left-leaning liberal voters respect her. And because of her, are looking around and they're also going, you know what? She's right. And I agree with Bobby Kennedy too. This Democrat Party and what they've done to America is not what I've signed up for. And I'm, at least for this election cycle, I'm going to go to Trump. And here we go. And so because of that, these battleground states, and again, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, and Arizona, all of them what we call battleground states. If Trump gets just 2 of those states, he's back in. He's back in the White House, ladies and gentlemen. Kennedy is urging his supporters to vote for President Trump in the battleground states. Every such state is now leaning towards Trump. It's an incredible, especially in light of what I said at the beginning of the program. You would think that right after their convention, they would have a bump. And, they were already experiencing a sugar high, this fake manufactured enthusiasm when Biden was forced out and Kamala was bequeathed the nomination. You saw a bump, obviously. I mean, they were happy. They've got a candidate who can walk up the steps without falling down. So there's this excitement, right? Nobody likes Kamala. Nothing has changed since 2020 and when she was running, and nothing has happened since 2017. Nothing has happened. She's as liberal and as disliked as she ever was. The only difference is now she's the only choice they've got because they've painted themselves into this DEI corner from which they cannot escape. So, of course, they've mandated fake, manufactured, engineered enthusiasm for this woman. And there's nothing organic about her. Everything that she's doing now, what are we going on? Almost 40 days or so, 38 days, 35 days, whatever, way too long, avoiding the media, no press conferences, running the basement campaign. Right now, she's on a bus with Tim Walz driving through Georgia. I'm going to get to Georgia in a minute and talk about it later specifically, but it's not in play for the Democrats. Until this bus tour, they weren't spending any money in Georgia because it's gone to Trump. And so they're hoping that the candidate who can now walk up the steps can somehow bring Georgia back into the fold. We'll see, but very doubtful. So right off the top, 60% of Kennedy voters heading over to President Trump. And you look at the numbers, and it's astonishing. 15 to 20 million voters heading over to President Trump absolutely is a swaying effect on this on this race. So I want to talk about this with you more, ladies and gentlemen. I think we deserve some hope and some good news and an outlook that causes us to, bear down, dig in our heels, and get to work, keep the momentum going. And there's going to be more people coming to join Trump. You'll see here. Right now, though, I've got to take a break. You're going to take a trip into the wonderful and incredible land of capitalism. I'll be right here waiting for you when you get back. Don't go away. Cheers.
Doug Billings, reminding you that conservatives are better looking than liberals.
Hi, everybody. Your old friend Doug Billings here, coming to you from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain. Mike Lindell, a friend of mine. Mike has come to all of the conferences, the Determined Patriotism conferences that I've given across the country, and I want to help him out too, him and his employees. In the face of all that he's been through, they have tried to cancel him yet again, ladies and gentlemen. MyPillow.com, promo code Billings. For everything you need, from pillows to sheets to towels, even a dog bed. I've got my son Michael's dog, who's a service dog, a yellow lab, great dog named Jet. Jet has 2 pet beds, one upstairs, one downstairs. He's loving life. They're the best dog beds in the world. The sheets are the best, towels. I mean, the mattress topper. Check out the mattress topper. It's like sleeping on a brand new mattress. I'm not kidding you. MyPillow.com, promo code Billings, ladies and gentlemen. Believe it, for the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
I want to tell you about the good people over at EMP Shield, electromagnetic pulse, ladies and gentlemen. It can fry your home electrical system or your vehicle's electrical system. But if you attach one of these, now this is for your breaker box at home. There's a smaller version that goes on your battery of your car, your vehicle, that will prevent it from being fried in the event of an electromagnetic pulse. Because as you know, thanks to Administrator Biden, many people coming across the border now who don't exactly have the best of intentions. Protect yourself. EMPshield.com. Get huge discounts over there if you use the promo code Doug.
The Right Side with Doug Billings, coming to you from the fruited plains of America.
Hey, everybody. Hey, thanks again. Doug Billings with you. Thanks for standing with me shoulder to shoulder. Appreciate you very much. And if you get a chance, don't forget DougBillings.us. Head over there and prayerfully consider setting up a monthly recurring donation so that I can continue to bring you this show free of charge. We never charge you for it. Special thanks, as always, to the good people at worldviewtube.com for carrying and producing the show for us. DougBillings.us. Check it out, ladies and gentlemen. Hope and polls and numbers, especially since Robert Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard have come over to our side, and feel the enthusiasm is great. We see it on social media. We can feel it in the air. We see it in even the legacy media. You can tell the enthusiasm is there because you can see it every time they get nervous or every time they react. You can tell they're in panic mode. So as I said, right off the top of the bat, with Bobby Kennedy endorsing Trump, 60%. Right off the top of Bobby Kennedy supporters going towards President Trump in big numbers. And that number will only get bigger as they think about it and as they reflect on what the choices really are, what Trump represents versus what the Democrat Party represents. This communist-socialist movement and rebranding of the liberal left is what they're going to realize, and they will not support it. The majority of Americans, look, we're going to be okay. I just put that out there. I choose to believe that because of what I see. And when you look then, as a result of what Kennedy's done for the presidential race, if you look at the House race as it stands today, so the United States Congress, the Republicans have a fantastic chance. They're a great chance to retain the majority. I think nationally, as I look here, a 6-point lead nationally for the House of Representatives for the Republican side. So they're up by 6 points. It's theirs to lose. We'll continue that trend. I'm confident of it. And those polls and those numbers are taken during a week, again, when you would think that this communist socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, should be enjoying a bounce in the polls from their convention or because of their convention. But it's not happening. The sugar high crashed too early. That excitement that they saw when Biden, who was obviously not mentally capable to be a candidate, I mean, obviously, and I do not wish any harm or ill will, but he was not, obviously so, not competent to be and not ready to be, not qualified to be a candidate for president. So they're excited to see Kamala come in, even though nobody likes her. The excitement is manufactured. They get on their conference calls. They demand it from everyone who is in TV, radio, and podcast land. And they say, you've got to act excited because this is the only thing we've got going for us. And in the last several election cycles, when you look at presidential races and the House and the Senate, for example, there is really no more split voting that goes on. That the days when you might go in and vote for a Republican for president, but then you might vote for Democrats who are in the Senate or in the House, right? That really doesn't happen anymore. It hasn't really happened since the days of the George W. Bush era, split voting. Pretty much when people go to the polls these days, they vote a straight ticket, Republican. If you vote a Republican for president, you're going to vote, typically speaking, a Republican for the House and the Senate. That's just the trend, and it's been that way for several election cycles. So that weighs in the favor of Trump right now. So good, that's fine, we'll take it. And let's take a look then specifically at some states. Ohio, it's going to go to Trump probably, I mean, more than likely because of J.D. Vance. That's where he's from. He currently lives there. And Ohio, part of the Rust Belt, Trump has a 12-point lead there. 12 points. Okay, you won't hear this in the legacy media. 56 to 44%. That's Trump's lead over Harris in Ohio. 56 to 44%. He's knocking it out of the park, my friends. In Ohio, no, we're just talking about Ohio. And if he's doing that in Ohio, President Trump is not losing in Pennsylvania. To be clear, Ohio is not a battleground state. Pennsylvania is. Okay. Florida is not a battleground state. Neither is Georgia. And they're all going red for Trump. All of those states. Of all of the states that are trending for and sealed up for President Trump, Georgia, for me right now, is interesting. It's been off the table. The Democrats have stopped until this recent bus tour that started today. Harris and Walz are on a Greyhound bus tour through Georgia. But until this, they haven't spent any money. They've given it up. It's just trending too heavily in Trump's favor. It's been off the table. Now, Trump in Iowa. Iowa, in many people's minds, flyover country, not a significant state, but it is significant. It's significant because it predicts, historically speaking, how other states trend. And in Iowa today, Trump has a 19-point lead over Kamala Harris. This is Iowa, okay? It's Iowa. And according to the Dubuque Times and the Iowa polling company out there that are top tier with regards to methodology and getting rid of that response bias that I talk about. So I bring Ohio and I bring Iowa up because historically they have been, both of those states have been predictive as to how the battleground states turn out. Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan specifically. Remember, Trump only needs 2 of those states, maybe even 1, but 2 would seal the deal for him to get back into the White House. And those states are also known as what's called the Rust Belt. And that's why, people look back and they wonder sometimes, or especially when he was first chosen, they wondered about J.D. Vance, and not everyone was convinced there was, a mixed bag of response. But that's why I was glad that Trump chose J.D. Vance, was because of the Rust Belt. J.D. Vance can deliver the Rust Belt to President Trump. And that's part of the brilliance and the strategy behind choosing him. And this time, unlike 2020, when Mike Pence was forced upon President Trump, and that's the truth, Pence was not Trump's choice. He was forced upon him by the establishment. Now Trump knows the game. Now Trump's choosing his own players, and J.D. Vance is one of them. I can only hope that Trump is surrounding himself with people who can decipher and figure out the disloyalty problem, because that was his Achilles heel, Trump's Achilles heel. Too many people surrounded him and got access to the inner circle who were not loyal to him and not on the same page. So we shall see. But the Rust Belt for us, again, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, West Virginia, and Ohio. That's the Rust Belt. And J.D. Vance can deliver all of those states, if things go well, to President Trump. And that's part of the reason, I think, if not the reason, why Vance was chosen. Those battleground states, it's important. Vance is one of those people. And when Ohio and Iowa, getting back to them, remember, in Iowa, Trump is up by 19 points, almost 20 points. And in Ohio, he's up by 12. When those two states go red in a presidential election, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan usually go red. This is the good news. This is the dynamic that I'm talking about. In full transparency, the statistical matchup isn't 100% on those states. So let me explain that. If a Republican leads in Ohio by, let's say, 7%, then historically speaking, that translates into a 3 or 4 point lead in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan. So it's not number for number. In other words, if they're up by 7 in Ohio, doesn't mean they're up by 7 in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. It means they're up by about 3 to 4 with a 7-point lead in Ohio, right? Clear on that? So I just want to be transparent. Want to make sure that you know what I'm talking about. But it means that those 3 states could go blue even if we're still ahead in Ohio. So the blue risk is still there. Not saying that this is a foregone conclusion. With a 7-point lead in Ohio, historically speaking, those states, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, can still go blue. So we're not out of the woods here. But if Iowa and Ohio continue this trend and increase those points towards Trump, let's say Ohio begins to trend towards 10 to 14 points for Trump, and Iowa begins to, it's already approaching 20. I mean, it's at 19, but if it gets up into the 20-point range, which is perfectly within the realm of possibility, ladies and gentlemen, if that happens, and if you'll see the Commune Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, will not win Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, or Michigan. So if the trends continue, and we have every reason to believe that they will, the mood and the swing and the momentum is with Trump, with Kennedy and Gabbard now, the wind in the sails going towards President Trump. Those states, if we get Ohio to the 10 to 12%, and if we get Iowa up touching, kissing 20, then those battleground states do go red by about 3 points. So that's great news, and we're heading in that direction. It's trending there. So we should all feel good about this. This is all hopeful news. It's based in reality. Nothing here is fictitious. This is not false. It's not hopium. We've had too much nonsense and hopium. This is reality, and it's good news. We don't become complacent. We still work. We still get out and work locally in our local communities and our counties, because that's where this thing will be won. And if you need something else to feel good about, day full of good news. If you need hope, share the program. If you want to share hope, here it is. Virginia, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. Remember, Virginia, a state where during this point of time in the 2020 election, Administrator Biden had a 15-point lead on President Trump in Virginia, this time during the 2020 race. Today, right now in Virginia, Trump is polling within the margin of error in Virginia. That's huge. Remember, Iowa, Trump is up by 18 points today currently. Ohio, Trump up by 12 points in Ohio. And just as I mentioned, Virginia is now in play. If it continues, if this trend continues, folks, get the fat lady and have her start singing, because it's done. It's finished. It's a wrap for President Trump. This is all great news. And I say this repeatedly. You will not see this. You will not hear it in the legacy media. And we as conservatives are in need of reality-based hope. And so here it is. Work hard and continue the trends. We are not up against a wall here, but we still have a race to win. We still have to get out, secure, protect, and vote. I am a big believer of voting on Election Day. I know that there's a convenience of voting early, but I'm a big proponent of following the intent of the founding fathers, and they intended election day voting. So my opinion, I urge you to consider that. All right, more to talk about, more hope, more facts, more polling that shows Trump trending in favorable numbers and ways, and I'll show you some more states and so forth that align with this line of thinking. I'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Stay with me. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now. And we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.
Doug Billings, reminding you that conservatives are better looking than liberals.
Everybody, welcome back. Right Side with Doug Billings, and reminding you, DougBillings.us, a new website we've got revamped over there. Check it out, DougBillings.us. Head over there and prayerfully consider setting up a recurring monthly donation so that I can continue to bring you the program. Also, if you want to be part of the program today, come on, let's open up the phone lines, 901-316-8404, 901-316-8404, and join me, be part of the discussion, talking about the polls and the trending numbers for President Trump based on primarily the endorsements of Robert Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. So I'd love to talk with you. 901-316-8404. Phone lines are open. Let's see what we can do about all of that. So I'm telling you that as I look at it here, and I'm just going to real quick, I wanted to look up one of the things that I saw earlier today, and the numbers that I'm quoting you. It is important to realize the significance of history when you look at Ohio and Iowa, because they predict so often how the battleground states, how they vote and how they turn blue, red, etc. In our case, when we look at Trump and what Kennedy brings, I've been talking in terms of percentage points. Now let me tell you in terms of numbers. Kennedy brings about 15 to 20 million voters from various demographics, women, men, black, white, a lot of Generation Z voters, millennial, Generation X folks. So the younger crowd tending toward Kennedy, and boomers as well, thank you very much, and the Asian, Hispanic, Latino, and so white, brown, men, women, young and old. And it's great news for us. Gabbard, the same thing. And when lifelong Democrats who have pursued that agenda look around and they realize, like we have, that what that party today stands for is not pro-America, that tells you something. You'd better take a second look at that. And he's, Kennedy and Gabbard both, I just tip my hat and I encourage all of you MAGA Republican conservatives to be welcoming and to have some empathy with regards to what they're going through, because their candidate has dropped out and now they are joining our forces. And so just for what that's worth. But the polls that I've been mentioning, I want to tell you that the Roanoke Polling Institute and the Des Moines Register, two of the most reputable polling agencies out there with sound methodology and the avoid response bias, Roanoke and the Des Moines Register polls up there in Iowa. I'm telling you that the evidence that we're seeing from these polls has every good bit of news for Trump, putting forth what we need. First of all, it feels good. I mean, let's be honest. It feels good to have this momentum coming our way. We know that it's the right path. We know that what America has been subjected to underneath the communist-socialist, formerly known as Democrat agenda, is open borders and chaos and crisis, arson and riots and looting and arson and anarchy. And they dare to say that joy and happiness will follow if you elect us. Well, we've already seen what's happened since you've been in office, Vice Pretender Harris and Governor Tim Walz. Chaos, crisis, burning, riots, looting, all of the things that I just mentioned. So they can't fool America with their words of joy and happiness, because their policies, their platform, and their politics have brought nothing but chaos. And ladies and gentlemen, they do that on purpose. This is not accidental. It's not some sort of a collateral damage situation. They made one or two bad mistakes, so there's this crisis and there's chaos. They specifically plan on what to do to start chaos, to start crisis. If it doesn't happen organically, they create it. You'd better believe it. It's right from the book Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky, which all of these people follow. It is a book that they have basically memorized. It's their Bible. So polls and good methodology are important for us because we understand that they bring us reality-based hope. These polls are used and get rid of the response bias. And again, response bias is like going to the it's like going to the blue-haired Democratic ladies club and asking them during their luncheon, okay, who are you going to vote for? Ladies of the blue-haired Democrat club, are you going to vote for Harris or are you going to vote for Trump? Well, of course, the blue-haired Democrat ladies lunch group is going to say Harris because they're a group of Democrats. This is how ridiculously idiotic the polls are that the liberals are putting out there. It's response bias laden with that, and it's a problem. But we're loving life because we see polls that don't use that, and we are emboldened because the truth does make you feel good, folks. That's what the truth does. Now, people are coming to the right side in record numbers because of all of this. You have heard me say before, as we look across the landscape of the Republic, it doesn't take very long to see that there is chaos and there's crisis. The border is a key example of that, and we've talked about that all the time because it's so easy to see the chaos and the crisis. Imagine President Trump coming in and setting up what he did in office, the tightest controls on the border that we've had in the modern era, the backing of the Border Patrol Agency, the funding and so forth, the wall and all of that. And he didn't get it all done, but he had 4 years. He got a lot of it done, but he knows the game now. You're going to see more agility from him and more action at a quicker pace when he comes in November or January of next year. But my point was that the people who see this, John and Jane Doe, the streets of America, who may have voted for Administrator Biden, young people who are trying to buy a home for the first time, who have just graduated college, trying to get a job and make their way of it, who can't do these things because of the environment, the economy that Vice Pretender Harris has created. Yesterday, we celebrated the sad anniversary of the loss of 13 Marines in Afghanistan, precisely because of the plan of exit that Kamala Harris put forth from Afghanistan. Now, she said to us in an interview, she was in the room with Joe Biden as they made that plan, that exit plan. And that exit plan resulted in creating 13 Gold Star families. So that's her. That's another example of the chaos that results from them. And oh, by the way, they left billions of dollars in cash and tier 1 military equipment from the United States, all now in the hands of the Taliban. Purposeful chaos. The country sees this every day, all year, for the last 3.5 years. They're fed up with it. They don't like the mandates, the shutdowns, and the lockdowns that were thrust upon us by members of the radical left Communist Socialist Party during the time of COVID. Now, they'll quickly jump on me and say, well, but President Trump was president then, and it was his fault. No, it wasn't. And please push back on the radical left when they say that. Trump was not in favor of shutting down the economy and your jobs and he wasn't in favor of saying stay home and take our free money. That the shutdown and the wreckage of economies during COVID happened in blue states that were run, led, and managed by members of this Communist Socialist Party, because they want the chaos and the crushing response of a closed economy, of a wrecked economy. And when chaos and crisis happen, they love it because they feel as if that drives people towards big government for help. And then they give out free money. Stay home. We'll take care of you. Folks, we're still not fully recovered from that. Any of you who travel and go around your hotels and restaurants still have not recovered. It is not a good thing, and we see it. And that's the good news. We see it right through them. Joy and happiness, my backside. Thank you very much. It's exactly the opposite. Child sex trafficking, a horror of a reality that is happening at the southern border and beyond for the last 3.5 years. And thanks to good people like Tim Ballard and Jim Caviezel and others who shine a light on that issue, I have to compartmentalize that one. That one's too graphic and too brutal. But it's the stuff that they bring about. The radical left party, again, evidence of the obvious is sufficient. They want chaos, and they drive it our way because they think that it helps bolster people up against and hoping for the big government to come in and help them. But there's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. No one with any shred of any intellectual maturity and common sense can be blinded by the truth of what they represent. And there's no doubt that multiple millions of people see this, and they're coming to our side. No doubt about it, in record numbers. Now, our job as MAGA conservatives is to welcome these people on board, to work with them. We don't need to agree on every single issue in the minutia of politics right now. We get Trump elected. We have this I think that there's this, it's hope in a lot of ways, yes, but it's optimism as well. It's a look towards the future. Finally, we can see a horizon where there might be a sunrise of hope coming over at us because of what Trump represents and because of what, the energy that Bobby Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard have delivered. And this makes the left panic, and they know that we have the momentum and that the side of truth is now coming to us. We can see it. The poll numbers, it's exciting. It's good. I encourage you to have hope. Share the program. Phone calls, the lines are open, ladies and gentlemen, 901-316-8404. Always like to have you jump on board here and join us. Looks like the Bluegrass State, Kentucky, and Paul. Welcome back, Paul, to the right side.
Hey, thank you, Doug. I enjoy listening to you very much and for your voice and conservative. And my concern is, is the voting machine still, and also all these illegal aliens going to be allowed to vote? Yeah,
good. That's my fear as well.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If we could, and what really gets me as a Christian conservative is these rhinos, like in Georgia, and the Secretary of State here in Kentucky. I don't trust him either, because he got more votes than anybody, and I've called about those machines, and they said, you can trust them. But Eric is our system, and Smartmatic is part of that, Eric. So, No, you can't trust them. But that was my concern. Can Trump still win with all of what are they going to try to pull off?
Well, Paul, let me tell you.
The polls are showing.
Yep. No, I well met and well said. I share those concerns. We with the machines, there's always a concern. So here's my thought. And let me just start first with the border and the illegals that you mentioned. So yes, I have said before, just as recently as last week, people always ask, they call up, they send me emails. They know that there was a cheat in 2020, obviously the theft of an American presidential election. How are they going to do it again? And for me, the border crisis and this illegal immigrant issue is a long play for them. It's a cheat, but it's a long play. It may have some impact this election cycle, but they want eventually these people who are coming over illegally, they want them to be the new electoral base. I mean, that's the plan from the very beginning of this, from day one of the Biden administration, when he, with his executive pen, shut down everything that Trump had established. I said 3.5 years ago, this is their plan. They want these illegals to become their new electoral base. And I believe that they are. They're promising them free money, free food, free housing, free health care. And I'll bet you a nickel that they're saying also, hey, Juan, Jose, hey, Ahmed over here. I know all of you illegals, gather around. Take this box of ballots that we're going to give you. Give it to your family and your friends. Fill it out and give it to the guy in the white van over there and have them fill it. And that's, I think it's happening. We've got to be very careful. And by the way, let me try to get you an ID card. Juan, let me try to get you this ID card that you can take and go vote. So we've got to be very careful about that. The way that we combat it, and again, the electronic machines, I admit is a problem. For me, when I go vote on Election Day, two things, Paul. One is I vote on Election Day. I do not vote early. I know that there's a lot of people, this convenience of voting early has become a crutch for a lot of people. I'm a purist. When it comes to the founding fathers and the Constitution, they intended Election Day. And so I honor that. And I think that we all should. Other countries can vote on Election Day and count the votes within 24 hours. We can do that too. When I go to vote, I demand a paper ballot. And I fill out my paper ballot, put it in the envelope, and then I drop it in the secure box right there at the polling station. And so if that's possible in Kentucky, perhaps that's something you would consider. Show up on Election Day, demand a paper ballot, fill it out, and have it hand counted. So those are I think we've got it, and Trump will, with the help of people that are coming in, we're going to deal with this illegal issue. We're going to deport. We've got to stop we're the only industrial nation in the world, Paul, that allows illegals to come in, and when they have kids, the kids are considered citizens. We got to put an end to that as well.
Yes. Well, Doug, I appreciate everything you're doing, and I'm also in-person vote. I don't believe in early voting. When I was in the military, yes, I sent it in and across overseas when it's over there to vote, but I'm always, me and my wife, always in person, same day voting, and I agree with you, and God bless you, and I'll keep listening. If there's anything I could do to help, I'll call back, and you can reach out, and thank you very much.
Paul, we love hearing from you here. Thanks for calling the right side. You call anytime, my friend. God bless you. All right, we got callers on the line waiting. David in South Florida, you're on the line. Hang on just a second, my brother and my friend. I'm up against a break. I apologize for the folks hanging on the line there, holding. Please, just 2 minutes, and I'll be right back after this break. Cheers.
We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today. Worldviewtalk.com.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. I am Doug Billings. Today's economy crashing thanks to the policies, platform, and politics of Kamala Harris. Thank you very much. If you want to protect your investment that you have set aside for your retirement, everyone's talking about it. Everyone's diversifying in gold and silver. the biblical standard for which we can protect our money. Head over to Doug's Gold, DOUGS Gold.com, Doug'sGold.com, and simply get information about how you can diversify your portfolio and protect your retirement, ladies and gentlemen. Doug'sGold.com. Also information about how to use gold and silver as currency on Doug'sGold.com. Ladies and gentlemen, head over there today. Protect yourselves. Protect your retirement. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The right side.
TWC.health/Brandon. This is one of our sponsors, has been now for a few years. Here it is. You just go there. If you use that URL, folks, you not only save money, but our program gets credit, which helps us keep doing great shows like this for free and pushing them out. TWC.health/Brandon. Look up here at the top of the page where it says Med Kits. Go down there to the one that says Contagion Emergency Kit. Contagion Emergency Kit. That's the one you want, right, Dr. McCullough?
Right. That's going to cover bird flu. Just you start on day one. I think all the animal workers, people in rural areas need to have these. You can't wait around for the pharmacist. If you start early, that comes with telemedicine. We can intensify the antivirals, get other drugs going. Very affordable. Join through Brandon's website. Join as a member because we're working on ways to replace the used drugs. And you have to be a member to get that advantage.
The Right Side with Doug Billings, coming to you from the fruited plains of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain of the United States. Thank you very much for being here. And thank you for watching the program. Look, if you're watching on X, please like me, follow me, share the program. Same thing, YouTube. Trying to rebuild the audience over there as well. Like, subscribe so that you don't miss a show. Facebook, we're over there. Rumble as well, and worldviewtube.com. Don't forget that platform, worldviewtube.com. A great bunch of folks over there with great content. Check them out. Same thing goes for Spreely TV. Check all those great platforms out, ladies and gentlemen. They do so much to help reclaim America back to the divine providence of God. So phone calls and the phone lines are open, 901-316-8404, 901-316-8404. And the surge in popularity for Trump, thanks in part to Kennedy and to Tulsi Gabbard. But the hope that we see is contagious. And more people now coming over to the right side. We've got David in South Florida on the lines. David, welcome back to the right side.
Hey, Doug, how are you doing this fine Tuesday? Well, it's actually early evening where I am. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's a good early evening here in the fruited plain. We're enjoying a much-needed thunderstorm outside right now, so we're getting some rain.
Oh, it's really, really hot and humid where I'm at. Anyway, it's amazing to think when you think back to Old Testament history, and you look at the Israelites marching through the wilderness, and they're complaining, "Oh, how I wish we were back in Israel," and all their complaining going on. And it's interesting how the Bible records that Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, had an idea. He says, "Hey, why don't you appoint captains over thousands, captains over hundreds, captains over 50s, and the small matters they can solve amongst themselves, but the big things they can bring to you." And I submit that was the very first form of representative government on the earth. That was God's idea. And of course, it was the Levites' job to teach the people the law. And for the first time in history, they taught that there's a God in heaven that wants you to be fair and will hold you accountable. And as we read, for the first 400 years of Israel's existence, they had no police, they had no prisons, they were self-governing, and they did very well. And then we read what happened. Well, the Levite priests, they stopped teaching the law, and to the point where even the high priest's sons were going in and bringing girls and fooling around with girls in the tabernacle where the Ark of the Covenant was. And then, of course, once
I think what you remind me of something that I talk about often on the program, and that that I believe, and I'm sure you do, and I'll let you jump in here in a second. I believe that God inspired the creation of this republic that we live in here today.
Oh yeah,
and I believe I believe that God inspired our founding fathers. I believe that our founding documents are inspired by God and written by men. And this is what's important in terms of what's happening today in the political landscape in America. So let me just draw a parallel to an issue that is on almost everyone's mind, and to what you are saying, David. The issue is, and I'm going to use abortion. Now, abortion is an issue that for many years, Republicans, conservatives, have been convinced somehow that this is a loser issue. We shouldn't be that focused on it, but it's a loser for us. They beat us up on this every year, blah, blah, blah. Well, I disagree completely. I think it's a winning issue for us. And what President Trump has done in light of Roe v. Wade, for example, Roe v. Wade was overturned because it's faulty legislation. It did not follow what the intent of the founders was. Now, the intenders had no concept of abortion, but they had a concept of the federal government implementing either federal bans or federal allowances for whatever issue. And for them, the federal government could not do that. The federal government could not overreach and just allow something to happen throughout the republic. That's a power that's reserved to the states. And so President Trump has rightly returned that issue to the states. And there's a lot of evangelical Christians. There's a lot of other folks out there who are a little upset. Hey, we want a national ban on abortion. Trump is not, Trump can't do that constitutionally. And if we believe that God inspired the founders to create this republic and draft our founding documents, we've got to then follow God's recipe. And that is that the states are where we tackle that issue. We then have to engage in determined patriotism at our state level to elect legislators that get rid of abortion. Now, that means for the time being, there will be some states that allow abortion, like Kansas. Kansas is now a destination state for abortion, but we have got to revamp the legislative process in that state, in any state, and take that issue back state by state. David, that you reminded me of that when you were talking about, the history lesson from the biblical standpoint, but it applies to what's going on today, I think, in that regard. I'll give you the last word on that.
Well, absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. And what it all boils down to is individual accountability and responsibility. And I think a lot of that in our present-day culture has been lost a little bit. People are, I want to say people, but I think a lot of people from the younger generation perhaps are afraid to take personal responsibility and personal accountability versus being dependent upon the state and being taught to be dependent upon the state. And once they realize just how wonderful it is to enjoy the fruit of your own labor from your own hands versus having to share it with everybody who did not work for it, but you are actually working for your own interests, and whatever you have left over in excess, you gladly share, but you're not required to. It's individual accountability and responsibility. I think that is the key and into teaching patriotism within our country. I think that's how we start to get back.
Amen. Well met and well said, David. I always enjoy hearing from you. You're spot on, and you motivate me. That's great. I love it. And the thing is, with the conservative movement in America, the founders intended us to take. We are supposed to be taking care of each other, neighbors and neighborhoods and the local communities. Back in the day, your barn burns down, your neighbors come and they help rebuild. It wasn't the federal government's job to swoop in and rebuild and to give you free money to get things done. You're supposed to do it yourself. And I think with regards to children, my gosh, I could spend a whole show talking about the wussification of American children because of the loss of the traditional American family unit, and how the feminist movement, born in the late 50s and early 60s and through the 70s, was just a disastrous phenomenon for the American family. American men and women and men and women throughout the world and throughout history are not equal. We are not equal. We're different. We're very different, and we should approach.
And thank the Lord for that.
Yes. Thank God we are. Can you imagine? Yeah. Well, like I said, I can go off on a soapbox, David. I'm almost out of time, but listen, I always appreciate hearing from you. I am honored that we're standing shoulder to shoulder. You tell everybody down there in South Florida to tune into the show and share us down there. You take good care.
Will do. God bless. Have a great day, Doug.
You bet, David. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Again, I appreciate you. Just a kind favor, if you would, before we say so long today, head over to DougBillings.us, please. DougBillings.us is the website where I invite you to prayerfully consider setting up a recurring monthly donation, 5, 10, 20, 100, 200, whatever you can afford, but prayerfully consider it. I never charge you for the program. I give it away for free. It's how I make a living, and it's how I tell the truth. It's how I bring the truth to you. So just consider, what is the truth worth to you? A lot of stuff to check out over on the website. I encourage you to do it. I'll see you tomorrow night. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in this together. We're going to reclaim the Republic. I promise you that. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.